Happy Monday, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to From the Hearts of Men radio show slash podcast. I am your host, Kocysha LaShaun, founder of Be Accelerated into Purpose and overseer of Humbled by His Grace Ministries. Y'all, I am so excited to have y'all tuned into our very first show. And before I introduce you to our amazing guest for today, allow me to share how this show even came into existence. So, for those of you who don't know, I am a 7 times author. My last book was titled From the Heart of God to the Hearts of Men. And it is something of a love letter from God to men, reminding them of why they should keep pushing, why they should keep trying, and why they should not give up, because He does indeed have a purpose and a plan for your life. So this show is kind of like a virtual sequel to the book, in that we are helping men be more effective. We are encouraging, empowering, and uplifting men to be better leaders in the home, in the workplace, community, and in the church. So, with that being said, allow me to introduce my very dear friend, my mentor, my coach, who keeps me on my toes, and my biz buddy as well. He is a father, he is a husband, and he is also the founder and CEO of Pinnacle Solutions Group. And I introduce to you none other than Mr. Cory L Walker, also known as Cory the Coach Walker. Thank you so much, Cory, for being my very first guest, for being on the show. And I thank you for all of your help through this process, and even helping me come up with the title for this particular radio show and podcast. So, Cory, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I think you've already said everything about me. So I'll just touch on that briefly. But before I get to that point, I just want to say thank you. When you said I'm your mentor, but really the mentor has become the mentee, just watching you grow and develop and do all that you're doing. So I just want to say thank you for having me, especially on the first show. And I'm just really excited about everything that you're doing, because, you're changing lives. You're reaching people where they are. You've got an incredible message, an incredible story, an incredible testimony. And so I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be a part of your story. Even though it's that small, man, it's special. So thank you so very much for you and all that you're doing, for having me on the show. Like Kocysha said, I am Cory L Walker, founder and CEO of Pinnacle Solutions Group. I am a husband, I am a father, all that good stuff. I hail from College Station, Arkansas. I represent everywhere I go, and I've been many, many places. And they always say, "Where is that?" So I have to give a shout out to my hometown of College Station, Arkansas. But married, 3 children, and building what I think is an incredible business. And I say that humbly, because we're helping people find solutions to some of their needs and some of their problems, especially in the line of entrepreneurs and small business owners, and employees get the benefit from that. I'm also a certified DISC and Motivators Model trainer. I've been in the space of speaking and training for a little more than 25 years at this point. I've had the opportunity to speak to some amazing crowds and individuals with different organizations and through employment and so forth. So I'm really grateful for that. That's a gift that I have been able to share with a lot of people. And I want to continue to do that. I love to see people grow. And, my mantra for a long time has been growth is everything. And so I do my part to help water the seed so that people continue to grow. So that's me in a nutshell. I'll pass it back over to you.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you again, Cory, for being here. So we're going to jump right into this. So you just said something powerful. Growth is everything. So obviously, so for this show, I want to focus on your journey to entrepreneurship. And I want, because I'm sure there are some people out there, some guys out there, some men out there listening who, especially with the pandemic, may have had to consider, I may need to look into other options. I may have lost my job or whatever the reason may be. I'm sure there are some people out there who want to know, how do I actually get into being an entrepreneur? And even if you want to share a little bit of the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner, but I want you to tell us your journey of how you started, because it wasn't overnight. And knowing some of the details, I think it will really bless some people of how you started out to where you are now, because you're actually a full-time entrepreneur now. So let us know how you actually got started and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. I can share, I don't know how many stories on this line, but you said, for people who are thinking and who are watching and looking at society, I guess we're coming out of a pandemic. We're in a pandemic. A lot of people are faced with making different choices, and people are starting to realize they really enjoy freedom. They really enjoy flexibility, and they can be productive, and they don't have to have someone standing over them with their thumb on them to get them to do what needs to be done. And people are considering entrepreneurship. And I highly encourage anyone who's thinking about moving into the space of entrepreneurship or ownership, business ownership, do it, go for it. And I say that with such confidence because I've already been where you are. I had to grow through the fear of stepping out on faith. Now that sounds crazy because it's not really supposed to be like that, right? Faith and fear really not supposed to go in the same cup. But stepping out on faith in the midst of fear is probably a little more accurate. And so I start there because I know that a lot of times people won't actually move into entrepreneurship because it is a daunting task. People have a fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. And, it's an unknown territory. And people are thinking, well, if I don't do this, or if I don't make this sale, if I don't make this presentation, if I don't get this customer, I'm not going to make any money. And, some people say, well, money isn't important. Money can't buy you happiness, but it can keep your lights on. Okay. Let's just keep it real. Money can keep your lights on along with everything else. And so, the first thing I want to just say, I'm a trainer, so I got to kind of give a little lesson here. First thing I want to say is, start with the end in mind, vision what it is that you want to achieve, and then go for it. The line or the path to success is not a straight line. It's up, down, it's squiggly. It's up and down, round and round, but you have to stay the course, right? And sometimes you have to take the path less beaten. And so for me, if I can, is it okay, Kocysha, if I just kind of move into my story and
yes, please
share mine? Okay, all right, yeah. I have to control myself because I get going. I'm like, woo! All right, so for me, it's a long story, but I'll make it as short as possible. So I was working a full-time job after graduating college, but I just wasn't making enough money. And I think that's a story still today for a lot of people. We go to school, get all these student loans, et cetera, and we're working and we got bills, we got kids, we got lights, we got all this responsibility. And, and we have limited income because that's what we signed up for, right? That's what we've been trained to do. And so I'm sitting in my office. Now I'm in charge. I'm the boss making this much money. So I'm sitting in my office and I'm looking through the newspaper and I find this opportunity, part-time, make money, this, that, and the other. Call this number. So I called and said, hey, yeah, we're having a free dinner. You come show up and have a presentation for you. We'll share some information with you to help make some money. Now, to me, it kind of sounded almost guaranteed. And when you think guaranteed, you think kind of like along the line of job, right? Because, if you show up, spend the time on the clock, if you don't screw up and they don't fire you, you're going to get paid. And so I'm thinking, hey, this is an opportunity. But I go to the meeting and oh man, they made a great presentation. But in my mind, I'm thinking, I can't do this. I will not. I don't want to. As a matter of fact, I can't sell nothing. And so we have this great dinner. They take a break and they say, hey guys, we're going to come back, answer any questions and help people get started who want to get started. Well, after I had that great dinner, I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys very much. They took a break and I made a beeline for the car. I mean, I was out of there. I didn't say bye to nobody. I didn't say nothing. I mean, I was burning rubber trying to get to my safe place back home, to my comfort zone, in other words. And but ironically, for the next, I don't know, maybe 18 months or so, I think that was 2002. And for maybe like the next 18 months or so, I met other people who presented that same opportunity. And let me just give some clarity here. It was a business opportunity, not a job. I went in thinking it was a job, so it felt safe. You know what I mean? It felt safe, but it wasn't a job. And so for the next 18 months or so, I kept meeting people and they kept saying, hey, you would be great with this. You would be great for that. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia after some stuff that I dealt with, some personal stuff. As a matter of fact, I got fired. I got let go, as they say. It makes it sound better. I got let go from City Year, which is interesting. City Year, I basically recruited their very first core for the city of Little Rock, the state of Arkansas. And just over some minuscule stuff, I got let go. Just wasn't the place for me to be, right? So I moved to Atlanta, which I had been talking about doing anyway. I ended up getting a job, although I was virtually homeless. I ended up getting a job and searching for opportunity. My friend calls and said, hey, I'm doing this thing. I want to, introduce you to somebody. I'm like, well, okay, who is it? Now I have been praying. I have been hoping. I had been wanting an opportunity because even though I was working full time, I wasn't making enough money. Still, I didn't have my own place. I'm crashing on my cousins. Not making my car note hardly. It was only $247 at the time. It was a nice car though. It was convertible. Ooh, it was peanut butter and champagne. That thing was beautiful. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just not making enough. So she calls and she's in Dallas at the time. And what happened? My wall immediately goes up. I'm on the defensive now because she's offering me an opportunity. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do this, even though I had been driving all the way out to Gwinnett County to take part in something else that I wasn't even making any money in. So anyway, she introduced me to a frat brother of mine who said, hey, there's a meeting in Atlanta down on Peachtree on Thursday. Hey, that's tomorrow. You got to go and meet this young guy. He's about your age. He's making $140,000 a year, fireball. And from what I can tell, he's just like you. So I go down there and I'm like, man, I'm sitting in this presentation. I'm like, why are these people so happy? Why are these people so happy? I guess my struggle was so strong to me that I couldn't really digest the excitement and happiness of others. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of one of those things. I mean, I wasn't hating though. I mean, hey, I'm like, that's them. They're gonna do their thing. When this is over, I'm gonna meet this dude and I'm gonna bounce. That was kind of like my attitude, And so, I'm listening and at the end, he makes this very long presentation. He's more long. If you think I'm long-winded, you should hear him. So he's making this presentation and he's talking to me. And I'm like, hey, maybe not. So we meet at the end and we talked. I tell him about my situation. And man, I'm gonna tell you something that I don't think I've told you this, and I don't think I really hardly ever told anybody else, maybe to a degree. But that very same day, I actually got let go from my job. In Atlanta. I know, it's crazy.
You not told me that.
Listen, that was some demonic stuff right there. If I can be real with you, just for a minute, I play a lot, but just to be serious, that was some demonic stuff that I was dealing with. And it turned out that, hey, that was probably one of the best things. So I'm actually in this meeting, I'm hurting. You know what I'm saying? I'm kind of hurting at the same time. And I'm like, what they say sometimes when you hit rock bottom, I kind of felt like that now that I think about it.
Wow.
And so anyway, he talks to me. He says, here, take this CD, take this book, read this book. Don't listen to nothing else. Listen to this CD. If you join us, we are going to hold your hand. We're going to help you. We're going to build you. We're going to teach you. We're going to show you the way. All we want you to do is ask questions. Listen to this material. I said, okay, I'm going to take a chance. And he said, great. It's awesome to take a chance on you. I said, well, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to take a chance on me. And that was the beginning of it all. I mean, it was a very tough time in my life because I'd gone through so many different things, and especially like with employees and stuff like that. But here's the kicker, and I'll shut up. Here's the kicker. So about 18 months later, this is October 13th, 2004. It was the very same opportunity 18 months prior and in between. I couldn't get away from it. And so it was crazy how all that happened, because I learned so much, and everything that I went through to become an entrepreneur in that opportunity gives implications for where I am today. It was like the foundation of building to where I am now. So I'll shut up and let you and let you take your show back, Miss Kocysha.
So I need you to continue the story a little bit, because see, I got some background information, so I know the story is not all the way done just yet. So I have to ask you, when he offered you this opportunity now, so we're in 2004, he offers you the opportunity and you say yes. For some people, so you had just got let go from your job again, and this opportunity, obviously no coincidence.
Right.
What is your mindset? Did you have the funds for it? Like, you just lost a job, so you're probably thinking like, man, look, I'm here, but I can't really, I don't know about how I'm going to afford this, anything. Did you have to go through any of that? Was any of that in your mind?
Of course. Back home in the hood, they used to say, hey, it take money to make money.
Right.
And that's a true statement, and if you think about it, because we don't think about it like this, if you go to school and it costs you $40,000 in order to get a job, it takes money to make money. It's the same thing, except for you're relying on yourself, and your own ability versus exchanging time for money. And so, but yeah, I didn't really have the money at the time. I think I had like another check coming, and actually I ended up applying for unemployment, which was crazy because I was in Atlanta. I hadn't been there long enough. I had to actually deal with the state of Arkansas for that. I mean, there's so much to this story. It's one of those things where you're like, man, that was a real faith walk. But to answer your question, yes, I actually had to borrow the money to get started. And, a lot of men would be like, nah, I'm gonna come up with it on my own. For me, it was about timing. I didn't have time to try to figure out how to come up with this money. I wasn't calling home for this money. So the friend who introduced me, my good friend at the time, my best friend at the time, and I was like, hey, I don't have the money to get started. And she was like, listen, I'm gonna front you. I'm gonna front you this money. I'm gonna loan it to you. You gotta pay me back. I'm like, bet, I'll pay you back. And so I took that, and I got started. So my actual start date was when everything processed was like October 14th or 15th, 2004. And that date always rings in my head because that was the day that everything changed for me. Right. So I can remember that just like somebody recovering from, alcohol or some type of addiction, And so I did pay her back eventually and went on to make a decent amount of money with this opportunity. And I mean, it just it was one of those things to where I had to set my pride aside, because I wasn't just telling, I'm not a very, I shouldn't say it like this, but I'm not a very open person. I deal with my stuff myself, and I'm not going to necessarily just, tell people my story, especially then. Now I will, because my story is not just for me, it's for somebody else.
Right.
And a part of my story was having to set my pride aside as a man to receive help that was obviously sent by the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been praying, I've been hoping, I have been wanting, I have been waiting. And if I had been, I think the good book says pride comes before a fall or something like that. If I had let my pride, stay in the way or even just be there, period, then I really could have sunken perhaps lower than I was at that time when somebody said, here, I'm going to help you move pride. I got to get this help. The next level's waiting on me.
Right.
And so as a man, I want to encourage any fella out there, hey, don't feel like you got to be all macho all the time. We all need help at some point or another. If you think about it, well, I don't want to start preaching, but yeah. So anyway, I'll shut up because I was about to start. I was literally about to start preaching and then take offering. But go ahead.
Well, hey, you may start preaching with this next question. So as you're sharing that about setting aside pride and accepting help. So one of the things that I've learned on my own entrepreneurial journey is you have to be careful, or you have to, let me put it like this. Every good idea is not a God idea. And I've had to learn that not every opportunity, however good it was, is for me. So with that being said, how important is it to have a sense of discernment when, obviously, because I don't want to say at rock bottom, but you're at a point where you don't have any other income coming in. You got one check maybe on the way, or, so how important is having a sense of discernment in, okay, the timing seems right. It seems like the right opportunity, but is this really where God is leading me? So can you expound on that a bit, or how, or whatever you may have experienced in your time frame as well? We have to be careful that we're discerning things right. Just because it looks good doesn't mean it's always good. So how did you know that this was the opportunity, this was the right opportunity for you?
I didn't, just to be honest, I didn't know. When you're in the midst of something, sometimes it's kind of hard to know which way is up. I think sometimes and I want to say this as quickly as I can, because I think sometimes, when you're talking about discernment, we have to be careful not to confuse discernment with fear, right? So sometimes, like if we fear a thing, it causes us to hesitate,
right?
And so we're thinking about, the what ifs about something, and some people will take those what ifs as discernment and say, well, that's not my opportunity, and they actually miss the boat in some cases. So we have to be careful about understanding what it means to be prepared for the next level. And what I mean by that, sometimes we may have to go through some things. We may have to experience some things. We may have to try some things in order to be prepared for the thing that's actually going to come to us. That is that thing. That's the one. This is the it. Let me give you a quick case in point. At the time, I met these ladies on my job, and they were like, "Hey, we're in the mortgage industry, and looking for some people, things of that nature." So I had a thing for mortgages prior to anyway. I wanted to sell or at least close loans, home loans, prior to moving to Atlanta. That's a whole nother story. But I saw this, and it was network marketing. So it's kind of like that, the pyramid scheme thing everybody always talk about. But I joined that, and that's the thing I was driving to Gwinnett County for, not making any money. what I got from that, even though that wasn't the one, what I got from that still had some effect or some impact on what I would need to know or skills that I would need to develop, or even just the understanding of the industry to be able to take on the thing that ultimately was the one. And it really was the one, but I was doing other things, not having any success until I found that one. And that one included the right people, the right opportunity, the right time, and it was something that, everybody needed. And so I think you just really have to be careful. We have to be careful not to mistake discernment for fear. Sometimes we have to feel the fear and do it anyway. Now, here's the thing. Once you get out there, you'll be protected. That's really when your discernment really starts after you get started. Because you can be in any type of opportunity, any type of business dealing, and you'll find out that once you get on the other side of yes, there's this thing, there's this thing, there's this thing, there's this thing. Which thing do you choose? Which route do you take? Which people do you trust? That's when your discernment really starts. And if you are in a position or a thing that turns out to be a false start, it's okay. The most important thing is that you started, right? And if you pay attention to your discernment and then you back up and you say, this ain't it, I got to go a different direction. Guess what? You learn two things. You learn how not to do something. Right. And then you learn what it takes in order to do something. That's powerful. That's powerful. So you take that to the next thing, and hopefully the next thing is the right thing, and you'll be ahead of the game. You're prepared at that point. Yep.
I love that because it reminds me, I think it was Bishop Jackson. I think he was doing an interview with Stephen Furtick. And one of the things he shared was, and I think he was talking about his son, something that he had told his son, but he said sometimes the thing leads to the thing. So you were saying how even though something may not be the ultimate one, it can still give you the resources, the knowledge, the value that will help you when you get to the one that God has for you. So that made me think of that. And also, you mentioned how sometimes we have to try things and also not to get discernment mixed with fear. And I think a lot of times what I would mention or just add on to that is, as you grow, and obviously, as you grow in your relationship with God, you are better able to hear him more. So it's like, again, like you said, you learn what not to do. And so as you grow, again, this life is a process. And so it's okay, like you said, it's okay if you don't get it right the first time. It's okay if you make mistakes. You learn from those mistakes and you keep pushing and you keep trying. And as you grow, you become more knowledgeable, you become more discerning, like, okay, I've been through this before, so I know this was not quite right. So I need to look at it a different way. So I think too, with discernment comes perspective or how we allow ourselves to view things as well. So thank you for sharing that, Cory.
That's good.
So I want to ask you next. One of the things you talked about was taking a chance on yourself. Obviously, if you had not taken that chance, if you had not stepped out on faith, and if you had not set your pride aside, you would not be where you are. So we hear a lot of people say, take a chance on yourself, invest in yourself, and this and that. And why is it important to take a chance on yourself?
Really taking a chance on yourself is really, in a sense, a very strong indication of faith. I think a lot of times we think about faith as this source of energy that we send to this greater or larger being, and in return, this greater or larger being, does something to us, through us, or for us. But if we really understand that greater, larger human or thing or source or God or Lord, however you want to call it, if you say that thing abides in you, it's inside of you, it's a part of you, and you say, come into my heart, come into my life, my very essence and my very being, then you have to believe that whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, whatever it is that you're trying to do, it's already inside of you, because that being that you're displaying faith in outwardly is already inside of you. So where are you sending your faith to? You know what I mean? So, and that kind of creates like this whole fairy tale narrative, I think. And so to believe in yourself, to believe in the abilities that have been imparted or given you, Jeff Olson, famous author, very highly successful businessman. I got a chance to meet him and spend about a week with him in Atlantis, Bahamas, a while back. He has a book called The Slight Edge. And in this book, he talks about all these different things that people do that seemingly have no effect on our end result. But he kind of gives a description of, okay, if I eat a burger, I don't necessarily, blow up. I'm not, I don't gain weight. But if I eat a salad, I don't necessarily gain weight. And he says we do these things over time, and we realize, we're either going to go up or down. We're going to develop this slight edge based on a cumulative number of actions. And anyway, long story short, I know I wasn't supposed to say that. I've been trying to get away from saying that. Yeah.
You done good so far.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But to my point, what Jeff Olson said, he said in his book, he said, too many times people are waiting on their ship to come in. You know that old saying, I'm just waiting on my ship to come in. He said, your ship is already there. It's already in the dock. It's waiting for you to go out. It's waiting for you to go out. And that's just like, if I believe that there's a greater source out there and that greater source is with me, that greater source is waiting for me to step out. And it will take care of me from that point on. But if I'm standing still and I'm just looking around and I'm waiting, nothing is happening. John Legend said, hesitation will take you nowhere, right? If I can quote John Legend, he said, hesitation will take you nowhere. And so when it comes to displaying faith and overcoming fear, you just gotta step out there. Robert Kiyosaki said, I believe, it was Robert Kiyosaki. I think he said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And listen, if it has to be a baby step, then so be it. Let it be a baby step, but let it be a step forward and not a step backward. Let it be a step forward, and you will grow. Like I said earlier, growth is everything. Your faith is like a muscle. If it has to be built, it's got to be torn, it's got to be ripped apart. That's how it grows, because that's how muscles grow. When you go in and you pump an iron, you're tearing fibers, and they heal bigger, better, and stronger and harder. Your faith is just the same way. You just got to step out. You got to step out and believe in yourself. That's how you get that faith thing going.
Thank you for sharing that. You mentioned boat and you mentioned ship. So we know there's a story of the guy, and you actually shared this with me not too long ago, about the guy who God sent the boat to him. You know that story?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Oh, well, I think everybody, born in the 70s and 80s perhaps know this story, and forward. I don't know about the younger generations, but and hopefully I can remember. I hadn't heard it in a long time, but I did share it with you, but I don't know if I shared it with you in its entirety. But there's a man, he's in a body of water, fell off a boat or something. I don't know. It was a flood. I don't know what it was, but he was in water and he prayed to God. God, save me. Save me, save me. Lord, save me. The man comes by on a canoe, I believe it was. And he says, hey, hop in the canoe. I'm going to take you to shore. And the man says, nah, I'm waiting on God. I pray God's going to save me. And somebody else come by and something else. And they give him the same offer. And he says no. And then somebody comes by in a big boat, a big ship, and they throw out the raft, and he's like, nah, I'm waiting on God. But the man ends up drowning. And so he gets to heaven and he says, Lord, what happened? I prayed to you and you didn't do anything for me. I waited and I waited and I ended up drowning. Now I'm here. And the Lord said to him, well, I sent you a canoe. I believe the other one was a raft, according to how the story goes. I sent you a raft and I sent you a boat, and people offered to save you, and you waited on me. But I'd already sent you everything you needed in order to be saved. And so, again, that story just really just kind of hit me just now, because there are people who are waiting to do something.
Right.
Who are already equipped.
Right.
Who have people in their lives that they're tuning out, who's trying to encourage them and push them to the next level. But yet these praying saints of God they're waiting on something miraculous to happen, and they are drowning at the same. Well, girl, stop. Girl, you go get me to going. I told you I'm not going to preach tonight. But that's one of the things that a lot of religious attitudes experience. We're so sending our energy outward that we're not acting on things that we feel inwardly. And there are people right now who are being told to step out and start a business, to step out to become an entrepreneur. You can do more really with the freedom. And yeah, it's going to hurt in the beginning. I think, I've got a relative who, when he started his business, he lived, they lived off his wife's income, which wasn't very much. She's an educator in the state of Arkansas years ago. But after about 6 years of growing and developing and really just by faith, pursuing the thing that he felt deep down the most. Today he is, I'm almost certain, a multimillionaire, has achieved so many wonderful things. And I remember when I was in junior high school, I had him come speak to my class, and he talked about how he got started. And believe it or not, it started out with him digging a hole. And that action set something afire in him that let him know that, hey, this is a thing that I feel that I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And even though they struggled, they didn't quit. They didn't give up. Every up and down was that muscle, that faith muscle being torn and rebuilt. And today, through faith, and he'll tell you, I mean, he's one of those stark type Christian type guys. But through faith, after hanging in there and not giving up and not quitting and giving up on himself and his dream, today he has tremendous success, and he gives all the glory to God.
Awesome. I love that. As you were talking about, going back to the original question, taking a chance on yourself, one of the things that I've learned and seen and observed and experienced myself is how when you take a chance on yourself, that opens the doors for other people to then take a chance on you. So it's like you limit yourself by not stepping out on faith. But when you do, then wow, the doors that begin to open, all because you made that first step. And sometimes that's all that God needs from us is just our yes. He's not concerned with the how because he already knows the how. He already knows the who. He knows all of that. But it's up to us to take that first step to say that yes. And when we do, then wow. Because I've experienced many times when it was like, I don't have the money for this, but I'm going to step out on faith and do this. And it was given a discount. So, I hope those who are listening understand that, sometimes you never know what's on the other side until you say yes, until you take that first step. And man, when you do, you would be amazed at how many people will support you. Maybe not the ones you thought would support you, but you would still be amazed at those who do, who God sends to support you on your journey.
That's really key. I mean, we talked about that over the years. The people that you least expect to do something will be the ones who are not just in your circle, but who are in your corner, right? And in one way or the other, whether they're supporting you financially, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, whatever the case may be. And sometimes those people are there before you even say yes.
Right. They're waiting on you.
Yeah, they're waiting on you, and they're telling you, you can do this. They see what sometimes you cannot see,
right?
And they're pushing you, and sometimes even those people will go away because they got to make room for that next person who's going to help you carry the torch. I mean, so it's so much with that, and it's not about just saying yes. You got to say yes, and then you got to move. You gotta say yes, and you gotta move. Jeff shared the story of the four pigeons. Four pigeons sitting on a line or standing on the line, and one of them decides to fly away. Well, the question is how many pigeons are left? So most people will say 3. But until that pigeon actually flies away, there's still 4 there. He just said I'm gonna fly away, but didn't put no action behind it, right? And so when you say yes, you gotta do something. I've seen people over the years who say, "Yeah, I want to be a part of this. I want to do this." Put money in, and then don't do anything. They never really get a chance to bring to fruition, what they said they believed in, because they didn't take the first step. They just said, "Yeah, I'll do this," but didn't do a thing. So anyway, that's a whole other story. I'm sorry, I cut you off. You said something triggered something on the inside, and I had to start talking.
That's good. That's good. So I have one more question. So we've talked about your journey. We've heard about your journey and how you stepped out on faith. And I think we both kind of hinted at or the fact that there's going to be ups and downs on your journey. So I want you to share with us what happens when everything, so you stepped out on faith. Maybe it's a little bit slow in the beginning, but then things start to increase, start to get better, but then you hit another valley. How do you get beyond? How do you maintain the confidence? How do you keep going, even with the ups and downs of your journey, when you feel like, okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be, I'm walking in my purpose, but why do these things keep happening? How can you encourage our men who may be experiencing that, where they know they're where they should be, but it's not always easy. Again, this is a process. It's not always going to be a bed of roses. So, but how do we maintain that motivation, the determination to keep moving forward, even when we fall or after we've fallen?
Yeah, really great question. It'll probably take me a good hour to really just hone in and answer that, but I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible, because I we're talking to men here. One of the most, men are special. I really do believe that society has done a tremendous job of robbing men of the the true essence of their being, especially as leaders in a lot of situations. And even being a good follower in a lot of situations. I mean, you really truly have to lead in order to be to follow in order to be a good leader,
right.
in certain situations. And, as a man, we have this thing called confidence, and then we have this thing called ego. When I was young, when I was a kid, I tripped. I believe I was in class, or maybe even at recess. And you know how it is when people make those types of mistakes. What do? They laugh at you, right? And they laugh. Oh, look at him. He clumsy. He failed. And then what happens? We get embarrassed. I remember the last time I tripped as a kid, I said to myself, I won't be embarrassed about these types of things in life. I have no idea why I said that or why I even thought that so young. But that's one thing that stayed with me for so long, to the point to where, hey, I might not be embarrassed about things that you see if I, reveal it or whatever the case may be. But if it's something that happens to me publicly, and it seemed like I was doing one thing and then I'm not doing that thing, or I'm not doing as good or as successful, I just won't be embarrassed. I won't be. I made that pact with myself as a kid. And I think for men, that is extremely important, because our egos are tied to our feelings of embarrassment or loss or whatever the case may be. Listen, we got to set the ego aside. We got to set the pride aside. And we got to understand and embrace the process. When we're changing, there's a process that goes along with change itself, right? Things don't just evolve overnight. They don't just instantly become that, whatever it is it's supposed to be. I mean, even when a caterpillar goes into a cocoon, you're looking at about I think it's like 14 days. Now, if the cocoon falls to the ground or whatever the case may be, and this butterfly is struggling to get out, the butterfly can't be embarrassed by the struggle. Because if the butterfly is embarrassed by the struggle and decides not to come out of the cocoon, what happens? It dies. But if it struggles to get out and frees itself, no matter who's watching, and then fly away, some glad morning, I'm going to fly away. God, that song just came to me. Some glad morning, or some glad effort, some glad day, perhaps, some glad challenge, or some glad success, or some glad, whatever. I mean, that's kind of through the song in there, but at some moment, when that butterfly escapes that cocoon, it's not only beautiful, but it's got a new capability.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? That thing been on the ground so long, climbing up stuff, looking at the sky, thinking to itself, I feel like I'm supposed to be there. But then it goes into this cocoon and goes through this metamorphosis, and it becomes where it needs to become in order to be where it felt like it should be, in the sky. And so we got to go through that same process to some degree, to some level, but we have to embrace that thing. We have to embrace the process, especially as men, and really anybody, knowing that at some point there is another side. But we never get to the other side if we don't move, if we don't step out, if we don't believe in ourselves, if we don't try, and if we don't fail. And when you fail forward, right? You fail forward. And so that means you learned again how to do something the wrong way. And now you understand what the right way is. And you take all those experiences, and those are the things that ultimately will help propel you into the future. In addition to everything else that we've said. And so, it's very important for us not to be, so I believe the word is egotistical, to where we find ourselves so embarrassed and paralyzed by fear of what other people may think or what other people may say, and embrace the process and keep moving. And you will achieve greater than you had previously. And whatever that means for you, whatever I don't know what your end result is supposed to be, but I know one thing: you won't get there if you stop moving, if you stop growing, if you stop believing, if you stop acting. So that's that. I told you I was going to try to do it short. I don't know if I went over time or not. How much time? How long does this show last?
Awesome. Cory, I just want to say thank you. We are at the end, and I just want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for the nuggets that you have shared. Thank you for your transparency. With that being said, please let our listeners know how they can get in contact with you, your social media handles, your website, any events, or I know you do vendor events or vendor pop-up shops, or so just let us know how they can get in contact with you and what you may have coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do a lot of stuff. I've done conferences, I've done all kind of events. But my business at this point, where I spend the most of my energy is serving as an outsourced opportunity for small businesses, 50 employees and smaller, for their benefits and for their employee training. Of course, we can do larger for the training aspect. So you can contact me on those things. I mean, we've got solutions for a number of issues in the business, in the employer-employee world, okay? Just today, somebody asked me, they said I tried to find you on LinkedIn. I took my profile down because it needs massaging. So I will be back on LinkedIn as Cory L Walker at some point. But you can find Pinnacle Solutions Group on Facebook at the PSG LLC, at the PSG LLC. So if you type in facebook.com/the PSG LLC, you will certainly find me there. Email Cory, CORY, at pinnaclesolutionsgroup.net. NET. Cory, CORY, no E in Cory, at pinnaclesolutionsgroup.net. You can also call me or text me. I mean, it's okay. My business line is 501-487-1842, 501-487-1842. If you reach out to me, we're going to talk. Okay, so if you can't reach me right away, just understand I'm helping somebody, but I will certainly be in contact with you, and happy to talk to you and perhaps be of service to you to help you along your journey, whatever your journey may be.
Awesome. Thank you again, Cory, for being my very first guest on this show. I am so excited for this, but I'm so excited for you, and I pray continuous blessings on your journey as you continue to move forward. So y'all, with that being said, my name is Kocysha LaShaun, the host of From the Hearts of Men, and it has been my pleasure and my honor to be with you on today. It is my prayer that all ears tuned in have been blessed by the nuggets that Mr. Cory has dropped for us today. So with that being said, have an awesome Monday, and remember to be a blessing to someone else. Thank you.